Okay. Hi guys, so I wanted to share, you've probably seen this month's papers across all tiers. I'm going to go through them and we're going to look more closely at some of the projects I've made with previous papers. And I just really wanted to encourage you that if you do happen to go on any of the tiers, you don't have to print out the papers until you're ready. I like printing out all the papers because then I'm working on projects and it helps me start to think about some of the things that I'd like to create. But one of the things that I have found, which is something that I want to address for myself, is that you can end up with loads and loads of, you know, like I think I started fussy cutting in earnest in 2024, and that was when I was introduced, or maybe 2023, I was introduced to the fodder school challenge, and then the following year I became one of the teachers, and I've just been fussy cutting. I need to go and get some better scissors actually. Anyway, so I do cut up all my papers, and over time my selection has grown, and there's a couple of the things that I would collect, and you know, like if I've made papers, there's those. If I've made things from courses, there's those. And then all of the papers, I mean, I've been creating papers since I think 2022 in earnest. So there's, like, you know, every year I'm creating a set of 4 different papers each month. So when you multiply that and yeah, all of the papers, it's just like, wow. Anyway, so storage is one of the things, and I found some ways. This is the latest way. So when I'm cutting up, everything goes into a little, this is what I used to use for cards, and then I've made certain things in journals, which I'll show you. And then the other way that I've got, my dog is sitting right behind me, so getting these things is just like, you really have to sit there. Anyway, so I then started putting all my papers and things in, and things that I'd made in these plastic storage containers, and I think they're for shoes, but I found that they fit just right on my shelf. But it's just like, if you've got ways, then please do share. Where we've got a series on fodder school where that is being discussed in terms of, well, what does everybody else have in terms of ideas and how they use it. And some people are very good at just using up and getting it out there. So anyway, so that is the so that's something to think about. So let's look at the papers. We'll look at some of the projects, because as I say, I'm creating projects all the time, creating imagery, using the papers all the time. So I hope that that will be of inspiration to you. And then thinking about how in our journals maybe we can use that as a storage space. Okay, so this is the free tier, and I'm going to be working on these mini tags. This is the front page, and you can download these. Come onto my Patreon. It's on the free tier, so join us on the free tier and you get early access to videos. But yeah, that's another one that I'm going to be working on this week. This is the $3 tier, and I've cut everything out, and that's what's left. And so I was thinking for myself this month that I will be creating imagery, faces. Yeah, I can already see something emerging here. And then using the rest in my journal, maybe adding different colours to these. So that's some of the things that I do. And then these are all of the elements that I've cut out. So there's loads of shapes. They're already there so that you can add them to projects, or if you are on or have your own background papers, you can layer them and interchange papers, because unconsciously there's always a theme running through. So it's not only the floral theme, but some of the colours kind of tie in, like this this is the $3 tier for this month. This was the $10 tier last month. That's what I was, yeah. But you've got the blues. With the $15 tier, they have these papers design. So that design, which I really like. It reminds me of some of the stamps that I would love to be able to make and use and do repeating patterns. So I'm going to really enjoy using all of them. And as I say, this is the last one that I've yet to cut up. The scissors, as I say, I need to get a new pair of scissors, but it was, I'm using a large pair that my hands started to ache, so it was just like, okay, take a break. But this is some of the elements that it has in it, and I like using these to create word tags and, you know, inspirational notes on the back, and mini journals with this one, and even that one actually. And then we've got the bookmarks that I just love the way they turn out. So I'm thinking I'll probably, oh, look at that, isn't that gorgeous? So you can take these elements and, you know, bring them into your artwork and be inspired by, say, the colours or the shapes that are contained in them, and yeah, work with them like that. And I've still got, this is October's papers to use up, that's December's, and yeah, as I say, I've been cutting them and keeping them in here just while I'm working on my desk in the studio. So we're going to be working on that one, and I'll put these to the side. So let's have a look at, over time I have been sharing some of the journals, and sometimes what I do, especially with, if I've got loads of like decorative paper that I've worked on, I will try and just use them up in a journal. So I think I did that in here. Like, this is one of the month's papers where it's just like, this is like a junk journal. It was a safari park guide, and I wanted to keep some of the animals, but I wasn't sure how I wanted to do it. I wanted to have a page that had, you know, painting, and then the animal will pop up, and then I either can doodle on them, or, as I say, I'm not sure. But then I started to put some of the papers. This is from the $3 tier, I think, earlier during the year or previous year. And yeah, so this is something that I would like to get finished. One of the artists, Meg Quinlan, did some mini dolls, and I liked the way that she, you know, created like the figures and the dolls. Well, it wasn't a doll's head, it was like either an animal's face or one of her images that she's created as art foamies. But yeah, I was just inspired to have the animals feature in here in some way, but, you know, take the background out and replace it with my imagery. And that's just a little project that I thought I would, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing how it would look and hold once it's done. And here are some more animals that I've, you know, cut out, getting ready for use. And I used some of these animals in my papers that I had when we were being inspired by her class, I used this. So that's that one. And then I'll show you these ones. Let me see if I'd put any. I don't think I've put, yeah, so just a few. So this is from papers from the free tier. Yeah, this is like one of the tags. And then I've added imagery, and like the bird is from birds I've created. I've then gone back into my stash and said, what have I got that I can add to this page? So this is another image from the free tier. This is the same image, and I've just altered it, and this one where I just left. And there are two faces that you can see. One, I've highlighted her eyes slightly, and you can see the other one in the background there. So again, using it to, you know, I've then added some quotes. And this was another page and a start of, okay, here's the tag from that month, and using some of the elements as spaces where I can put a tag to rest, and I could come back to it, you know, like I don't have to put that in a pocket. Or I could, you know, I might say I'm going to use this further on into the life of this journal, but it's already there. Okay, and this one again, similar. So all of these pages, it started, let me show you, see clearly where right, so I think it's from here. So these pages use the $15 tier inspired by nature papers, and yeah, all the papers use a kind of like geometric design and geometric design of either a piece of my art, or I've gone out into the garden and taken pictures of it and then worked with it. So here's a mini journal that I made. I covered an envelope, and then I've created like a little tuck spot. This is just recycled from a book that had just had some really nice images, and there's a lot of dark space in the book, so it's a nice place to be able to doodle. So I think that's one of the things I'll be doing on these pages. But that's this page here, and then this fits in nicely there. Okay, and this was another page, creating envelopes and using the tags in the paper sets that you get. So that's a set, and then I'll come back to this because I've written notes to myself, and I use the journals as a space for encouragement. So I'll come back, and I might not feel like doing any activity, but an activity of just looking through and remembering. It's memory. So it's important that you have spaces like that, because you're not going to always feel like creating something, but just this very act of viewing, seek. So I've got some more tags in here that I've made, and as I say, for me, I've got so many words that are encouraging for myself that why not start putting them on these things? You know, it's not all the time that you are going to be going to your computer or whatever. So have spaces where, create things where you can then write on them. So this comes from the $3 tier, and the $10 tier has these where you can make mini journals, and then you've got writing spots. You can do drawing on one side, write the word just like I've done there, and decorating an envelope was another idea, which then enabled me to just go wild with these. I had these new pens, so here's some more papers that I actually might put aside, because I want papers that have either been backed by card, and they can slot in here. I made a little slot for them there, and more doodling. This uses some of the black and white pages that I have in the paper sets, and I've just added black ink, and then it's another place I can come back to that's unfinished. And this is the kind of thing that I would do on it. Again, papers laid out from earlier papers. I've painted some, left it so that you can see the papers, and created an image. So hopefully that gives you an idea of some of the things that you can do. You know, you just allow yourself the freedom to do some of the things that you may have just thought about and thought, oh no, you might have said, oh no, I can't do that, let me do something else. But now's the time to experiment, yeah? So this was one of the spaces that I had planned especially for my papers. Over the months it just grew and grew and grew, and it's just like I had to find another space. But essentially I've created mini spaces for, so this is like one of the storage spaces. I created like these mini holders from the papers themselves, and then when I cut up the elements, this is where I can then put them. And then some of the times I actually worked on them, so these are waiting now to go on a project. But it's like sometimes you want them to hand, so it's finding ways in which you can have them to hand and be able to work on them. And this was another, again, another little tuck spot where I can place some of these things and they stay. So lots of the pages have been layered with my papers, and then I've added other elements. Mini books, again from papers that I haven't yet worked on. But what a nice space to be able to, especially over the Christmas season where, you know, you might want to just, things are a bit quieter, depending on what you're doing. But I would go through these and, yeah, add them to card. That would be an activity that I would just say to myself, okay, you know, it's a dry activity, just with your glue stick and a pair of scissors. So we're going back to May 2024, making frames, again making more tags and adding images that I already have. And yeah, I think these are always nice to make, and they can be given away as gifts. So again, I might take out some of the papers like this that hasn't been yet worked on and just start using them, because they're just sitting in here at the moment waiting. Amanda, come, I need to be added to an art journal. They're so pretty. And we're gonna have a new set come next year, January. I'm busy thinking about what kind of things I'd like to create. So these then could sit in a different space of ones that, if you know, it's like creating a cluster, and it can then just add to the page and it's got everything on it. So maybe that's, in terms of thinking about storage, I can store them in different ways. At the moment I'm just storing everything together. So papers that need something doing to them could be in one space, and then papers that have been worked on like this can be in another space. Okay, and this was just a mini book. I said to myself, right, I'm just going to use all the papers. I took a handful and said I'm just going to go through that and make a little journal and make a journal I did, and just used up little bits of papers, and there's space that I can come in. I went through a magazine and added them to this page as well, and it makes just a nice, like I'm saying, it just makes a nice space that I can say, maybe not that one, okay, this needs something, let me add this, and then you build on it as you go along. Yeah. And then this one has just some little pockets, again with elements that I could potentially use. And like I could, this particular piece, I could just add something like that, or, you know, yeah, or something smaller. So I like this bit, so maybe just something to cover there. Okay, let's swiftly move through. Again, more tuck spots and spaces. These are pages that I created images from. So these are the $10 tier papers, I think, or maybe the $3 tier papers that I've used and made images. I went through a whole phase of making faces and things like that each month. So these ones, again, like they're here with words on them that could be used, but again, if you don't know that they're there, miracles do happen, and I can go through it and encourage myself. It's got little images that I've drawn, painted, some scriptures there, Psalm 121, see more. So however you're feeling, you could go through here, and then I could say, okay, well, this hasn't really got anything on it, let me just do some marks, and then I come back next time and you add to the marks. I went through and did some stamping from little stamps that I made. And then just a reminder, miracles do happen. Okay, so we've got some more little mini journals made from the papers. I think that this particular month, it was August 24, with the $3 tier papers, I thought I might go through and create faces. So all the papers are here just waiting for me to add faces. Or I could do an in-between stop, and it could be add some additional, like leave it on the table, and when you've got extra paint, just add the paint there. When you've got scrap paper, add it. You know, you can cut it up into shapes and then add it, and then that builds on it, yeah? And in here, I think I just, yeah, was making some like little ATC cards. I'd added some of the papers to card and then just painted over some of it. And this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about, in that, you know, you just start layering. You don't necessarily have to know exactly what you're gonna do, but you might just say, I've got this bit of paper, let me add it to this. And then when you fill it up, you move on to the next. And these are just some, I made some paper clip, like bookmarks kind of thing. I think I saw it was a lady called Natasha from Treasure Books, and she's got some really lovely ideas that she makes, and it's just nice to be able to, you know, make use of them for yourself. Like this can hold these tags here while waiting, and maybe I'll put these, because they're done, I'll put them in here for now. So a lot in there, isn't it? And then what I want to do is work on these, and I was thinking to add them to card for one, and I found some cards that I've had over the years, so I thought I don't mind using it as a backing, and that's what I'll probably do. So first instance, what I'm going to do is add these to cards, and then I want to look through, say, some of the maybe not these ones, but to add, like, see if I've got any that have got like any cutout shapes like flowers, or I could even take something like this and create a leaf shape and put on it. So essentially I want to just start adding these and seeing where I want to take them. So that's what I'm going to do in the first instance. And again, it's thinking about play. Like, you don't have to know exactly what you want to do on it. I know I want to make them as tags, and I know I want to use this pink paper. That's all I've got at this moment. And then I'm aware that there'll be a strip that I can potentially use for something else. I'm going to try and do them, I was going to do them as close as possible, but that's not really much to be able to use in another project. So there'll be minimal amount of wastage. Right, so I think I'm going to be using some of my old papers and this month's $3 tier papers on a journal page and add these to the page. So I'm just going to work and cover these 2 pages in these 3, see how it goes, and then come back. Okay, so here we are so far, and then I was just thinking I had maybe not necessarily needed to put it on the back of the card, but I didn't know that I was gonna want to work in the journal like that, so that's fine. I've still got 2 left. Although, actually, look, I've got this one. I can use this one. This is how it sits on the front cover, so I will use this one, and I'm just really feeling where I want to take it. I'm thinking that I want to emphasize one of the women in this image, so I'll do the main one here that you can see, and I'm just going to play. So come along for the adventure and see where it takes us. So this is a great way to practice faces. So you've already got the face here, so just practice altering it or working with it, and same with the body. So I'm just going to use the background pages that I have here and incorporate that in her clothing. So we've got all the nice colour here already. I just need to decide what the clothing will look like, and I'm thinking she's got, okay, it goes around here at the neck, and there is, just maybe another neck piece. I wanted to have a necklace that takes over there, do her arms. I'll just keep it simple, it doesn't have to be like, you know, we know that at the end of her arms she has hands that she's just either got in her pocket or is by her side. yeah, so this is a nice way to be able to play about with the figures, what they're wearing, what they look like. I very rarely keep them as is, so I'll be going in and doing some doodling on her face, and I might add some doodling to her hair because I don't want to see the figure there. And then I also want, see, I could have cut this out, but anyway, so I also want to add in some of the flowers in the background. So maybe take one of the papers that I've got here and just add a bits like that round that. That's all I want to kind of really do, and then we'll work on the main page. Kind of, it's an improvised session basically. I'm taking it where I feel she wants to go with it and see how much I can do. Okay, so here is what we have so far. I have added some lines to break up the flowers in the background, and I like the way it's finished, and the change of frequency wording. We can come in for a closer look. But as you can see, just with some of the papers, just experiment and play in your journal and creative space. Change the frequency.